Welcome back, everybody. Hope you're all doing good. Today, we're starting a new series, and it's a kind of helpful tutorial for AirlineSim. Now, I am not the best at this game, but I have learned some things over the years, and I figured I'm going to try and share some tips with y'all and some techniques and stuff I've learned. So, what we're going to be doing is we're going to do a couple, hopefully, smaller, shorter episodes where I show y'all some stuff, give y'all some info, and just hopefully tell y'all everything y'all might need to know about this. So today we're going to start off talk about founding your airlines and some very basic things to know. So when founding an airline, as you can see, my airline that we're currently looking at is called Braniff Holdings. And you're probably like, okay, Holdings, that's a weird name for an airline. It's because it's not actually an airline. Braniff Holdings is kind of like an umbrella corporation where I'm going to have all of my other airlines operate under. And the reason I do that is, for one, it makes things look nicer. Now, you don't have to, but if we come over here and let's take a look at the markets and exchanges, where you can see I don't think anybody's done any sort of IPO yet, so it kind of is hard to explain. But if you come over here, you see my subsidiaries and investments. So these are my two airlines that actually have aircraft routes and everything. We have International and Express. Now, say if I ran an AP or an IPO, initial public offering, I pretty much put one of these up on the stock market. People can, buy stocks, they can sell stocks, and actually, if you have a majority share of a company, you can gain control of it. So, say if Braniff Express, I was just like, I don't want to deal with it anymore, but I don't really want to get rid of it. You know, it might be worth just selling the stock or the shares of it. So, say if I share or sell 51%, so I still maintain 49%, I get some money from the dividends and I don't have to worry about managing it. Well, somebody else, say United, the guy that ran United Airlines, bought it. Well, then he would control it. And it's very clean. It's a great way to do it, as well as it's just how I think everybody else does it, and it's good. It's the way I've always done things. I suggest it. If you don't do it, it's not the end of the world, but I always suggest you do it. So y'all are probably like, okay, that makes sense. So let's look at my airlines. Why do you have two airlines? You have Express and International. Well, I'll tell you. So let's take a look at each of these. So we have British International, and oh wow, that's a lot of different aircraft types. Yes and no. So we're going to ignore the McDonnell Douglas MD-81s down here because I actually canceled the leases on all of those. So in the next 2 days, they're all going to get returned. So we have the 67s here. Okay. So there's four different versions: 200, 200ER, 300ER, and 400ER. Okay. So that's one grouping. And then we have the 57s. There we go. The 57s. A couple different types, but still, at the end of the day, they're all 57s. We have a single 47, kind of the, odd one out. And then we have a couple 37s. So the reason I have that, and then we'll take a look at this Express where I have an ATR, some RJs, and a Dash 8300, is because every airline, and specifically subsidiary you run, there's maintenance you have to deal with. And you are allowed 3 different aircraft types, or to be more specific, maintenance categories, before you have to start paying a, I guess, premium, for lack of a better term, on the aircraft. So if I run, and here, for instance, like I said, ignore the MD-80s, we have the 67s, which is 1 aircraft type, the 57s, which is 2, the 37s, which is 3. Okay, so at that point, anytime I had another maintenance category, I have to pay 15% on top of, or 50% more on maintenance. Now, that's not like, okay, 50, if I pay $1 million, for every 47 I add, it's still the only base 15%. No, it's just you have to pay 15% more per maintenance category. And that's a little confusing, and I don't exactly know how it's fully factored, but it costs money. More money than it would cost to, say, run another 737. So, something you always have to keep in mind, especially when searching for new aircraft and whether or not to open up another subsidiary, is it worth it for me to pay that 15%? And in my case with the 747, I wanted to try it and see how it performed. I have 37s, 57s, and 67s. So I have some big aircraft, but I still kind of had a gap where I needed a long range aircraft. Now, my airline is based in Newark. So the 67s can get pretty good all the way to Beijing. Beijing is about the cutoff for where I can effectively run the 67s. I think even here they take a little bit of a payload hit, but it's still enough to be profitable. So I decided, okay, the 47s, I could get them cheap. They had good range and they had good capacity. So I was able to justify the extra money because I needed them. I knew that 15% was nothing compared to the money I could make from running them. So that is why I have International and Express. Because Express, I run them to tiny, tiny airports. And airports that couldn't handle most 37s. For instance, one big one is, let's see, where is Toronto City? It has a 1,200-meter runway. Not even possible for me to land any other aircraft at. So it's worth it. And the great thing is, with I was able to get a lot of these planes for very, very cheap. It allowed me to kind of monopolize these routes. I'm the only airline serving 90% of the destinations that Braniff Express serves, which means I don't have to really worry about pricing. I can price it a little higher than I normally price everything else because it's just how it is. So let's take a look at some other quick things to keep in mind. So the other thing to know when starting your airline is where you want it based. Now, a lot of people are like, okay, I want to start in America. Makes sense. Everybody likes starting in America for the most part. Unless, of course, you're European. You probably want to start in Europe. But most of my viewership is American, so we're just going to stick with kind of that. So, okay. So let's take the USA and let's click it. Well, unrestricted market access. Well, what's that mean? And treaties not a member. So these are two very, very important things to know. Unrestricted market access means you can't just come in and set up an airline there. So to run an airline in America, you have to be founded in America. So I have EasyJet under my umbrella of it's a different holding, completely separate from Braniff and Etihad. So if I wanted to set up EasyJet America, I couldn't do that. Well, technically you can, but what's going to happen is you're not going to have traffic rights. So you can set up flights and everything, but you will never get a single passenger. So the other thing we need to look at is treaties. You're not a member of any treaty. Well, what's one of the treaties? Well, we'll take a look at that. We'll switch over to EasyJet PLC, which is the holding for EasyJet. Now you can see its country is London, or country is United Kingdom, headquartered in London, Luton. Let's click info and we see EasyJet Switzerland. Well, headquarters is in Zurich. Well, that's not in Switzerland, or I'm sorry, that's not in Great Britain. Well, here's why. It has the EU treaty. Now, while it says unrestricted market access, you can actually open up an airline in any EU treaty country as long as your airline is initially based in the EU treaty country. Now, I'm going to throw up a picture, and I'll put it kind of right here, and that'll just give you an idea. I figured it'd be easier to just pull it up. So this is how the game actually explains it. This is an official little graphic they released. So this is where we're based. So think of this as the UK. This is London, Luton, and over here is Switzerland. So our second country and an EU member. So we can fly London, Luton to Switzerland, and say this is the United States. Well, we can fly London to the United States because we're based here, and we can fly London to Manchester, and we can fly, Zurich to Geneva or Zurich to Rome, because all of these are in the EU. But we can't fly Zurich to the United States, and we can't fly, Washington to New York because we don't have traffic rights. And I know this is a little more complicated than most people kind of will be dealing with, but it's a very important thing to remember that you can't just open up an airline anywhere. So you need to be careful, you need to search. So in the next video, we're going to talk about searching for a place to start. Well, thank you for stopping by for today's episode. Until the next one, have a good one, and goodbye.